The business operations section of the ESB exam will expect you to be able to identify human capital and key positions, division of work, required taxes, understand intellectual property and copyright, recognize standard operating procedures, manage a supply chain, and identify sustainability factors and growth milestones. Let's start with some scenarios on key positions and human capital. Jeremy has owned his window covering installation business for 2 years. Demand for his services is growing at a significant rate, and he is having difficulty keeping up. He decides to hire an assistant to balance the workload. Jeremy identified the skills necessary for the job, key among them the ability to work dependably and independently. He's written a job description and posted the ad for the job. He received a great number of applications. Of the following questions, which will help Jeremy choose the candidate that will best meet this human capital need? While all of these questions might be good to consider, there is a key piece of information in the scenario that will point to the correct answer. Jeremy needs someone who is dependable and can work independently. Therefore, he needs someone whose performance can be assessed. Here's another scenario. A local nonprofit arts organization is looking for a director. The organization is new, only in its second year of operation, but it is growing quickly. The director position was created to have a single position responsible for operating all aspects of the organization. Because of this, the founders are looking for someone with 10 or more years of experience with a similar arts organization. Of the following, which factor might prevent the organization from hiring? Two keys to deciphering this scenario. The focus of the organization's need is put on hiring someone with 10 years of experience, and the question itself asks what might prevent the organization from hiring. With these two pieces of information, the best answer is, can the organization afford an attractive salary? Cody's Country Store has been a smashing success, and he's looking to start another store in a nearby community, which means he needs to hire a store manager for the current store. What is the correct order of the hiring process? The first thing Cody needs to do is identify the skills needed for the store manager position. Second, he needs to create a job description that includes the position requirements. Third, he needs to place an ad. And finally, he needs to review applications and interview candidates. As with all the scenarios, be sure to read and understand the information presented, as well as the question. Doing so will guide you to the best answer. Determining whether work can be completed by a business owner or requires employees or a service provider is another entrepreneurial component the ESB exam will assess. Here's how it might do that. A skincare company employs 15 independent consultants. The company provides office space as necessary, marketing materials for the consultants, and mentoring. Which of these should the skincare company outsource? Any training related to the business would be something the company would offer. Of the two remaining choices, copy services are easy to provide, while internet services is something the company would be wise to seek from a service provider. Jason is a successful independent Microsoft Office corporate trainer who has decided to start his own training company. As he begins to create the company structure, he puts together an organizational chart to help define the job roles and determine what type of employees might be needed. He creates 4 levels of employees in the chart. Of the following, what might be expected of the employees on the highest level of the organizational chart? Top-level employees wouldn't be providing admin support or doing classroom training. Though they might be involved in selling the services of the company, the best answer is that the top-level employees would be responsible for building a board of advisors and creating succession plans. Let's build on that scenario. After only a year, Jason's training company now employs 45 people, and his accounting department has recommended outsourcing payroll and payroll-related functions. Of the following, which is the most likely to be included with outsourcing payroll-related functions? This question is trying to tempt you to pick health services, because payment of health insurance premiums is a payroll-related function. But the best answer would be administration of benefits, as that would include health insurance payments, 401k contributions, and other aspects of payroll-related items. Watch out for the good answers, and be sure to choose the best answers. The tax portion of the ESB exam will expect you to understand the various tax implications for various business structures. Be sure you know the taxes required for C, S, and nonprofit corporations, as well as those required for sole and general partnerships and limited liability companies. A corporation pays taxes, as do each of the shareholders. Which corporate structure tax implications does that define? The company and the shareholders both pay taxes in a C corporation structure. How about a couple scenarios? Carla's metal sculpture business is structured as a sole proprietorship. What are the tax implications for Carla's business? The key to this scenario, if you can't recall the specific tax requirements for a sole proprietorship, is in recalling the definition of a sole proprietorship. Doing so will quickly eliminate the first two options, as they imply a corporate structure with more than one person. Careful reading will point us to the fourth option as the best answer. Lee learns that he must pay self-employment tax due to the legal structure of his graphic design consulting business. Of the following, which structure is Lee's business and therefore subject to self-employment tax? That's right. Lee's business is structured as a sole proprietorship. The other structures aren't subject to the self-employment tax. Be sure you review tax implications. There may not be a lot of questions on the ESB exam about taxes, but there are plenty of times you will encounter them as an entrepreneur. Let's take a look at what you might see for scenarios based on intellectual property, trademarks, copyrights, and patents. Casey was using a do-it-yourself website tool to create a new website for his doggy daycare. He found a number of great images online and incorporated them into the site's design. Not long after launching the new website, Casey received a letter from a law firm stating that he was using some of the images unlawfully. Of the following, which intellectual property protection is described in this scenario? Images and other works are under copyright protections at the moment of their creation and, unless explicitly stated, may not be used without permission. Nicole is an avid cake decorator, but is frustrated by the mess of using traditional pastry bags and decorating tips. After attempts at creating a better solution, she successfully creates a device that will allow for greater control, easier tip placement, and considerably less mess. She would like to protect her intellectual property rights and be able to exclusively sell her new device. How should she go about doing so? A patent, once approved, will allow Nicole the exclusive right to manufacture and sell the device. Let's take a look at 2 more sample questions. Late one night after a recording session with another band, Isaac writes and records a new song. He wants to protect it from being recorded or sold by other musicians. Which intellectual property protection is Isaac seeking? That's right. Just like images, songs are also under the protection of copyright and could not legally be recorded or sold by other musicians without Isaac's permission. Jade's Cafe has become the go-to place for the best coffee and sandwiches in town. She has a lot of ideas born out of her experience starting and running the cafe. Which of these intellectual property types apply to the products she might create? To make it interesting, the intellectual property types may be used more than once, or not at all. Photographs of her products would be under copyright. A new type of milk steamer would be eligible for patent. A new logo for her cafe's custom coffee blends would fall under trademark. And her custom prints would also be under copyright. Be sure you know the definitions of trademarks, copyrights, patents, and trade secrets. You may encounter scenarios that test your knowledge on all, or just some of these. In the Standard Operating Procedures section of the ESB exam, you will encounter questions and scenarios about business setup, business conduct, internal controls, separation of duties, and other standard operating procedures. Since opening his auto repair business to the general public, Brian has noticed that customers whose vehicles require transmission work often elect not to have the service completed due to a lack of immediately available funds. Typically, transmission repairs cost $1,800 or more. Which operating policy should Brian adopt to potentially acquire the business of these customers? While any of these options might be worthy of adoption, to directly address the ability of a customer to pay a substantial fee up front, Brian should adopt a policy of using payment terms on approved credit. Chad is finding that with the addition of a pet supply store to his dog kennel business, he cannot keep up on managing customers or the business itself. He decides he needs to hire a business manager to handle all of the record keeping, scheduling, and bills. He'll retain payment authorization, check signing, and working with the customers and other employees. Which standard operating procedure is Chad implementing? Chad is dividing the responsibility he currently has, so separation of duties is the best response. JD's Pizza Place has a head cook with several assistants. Each assistant manages various aspects of the kitchen, but the head cook has taught each of them to prepare all of the dishes in exactly the same way. Which standard operating procedure has the head cook implemented? That's right. By teaching each of his assistants, who have their own responsibilities, the way to prepare the dishes served at the pizza place, he has cross-trained them to be able to handle some of his responsibilities. Though standard operating procedures are going to vary from business to business, the concepts have a wide application. The supply chain section of the exam will test your knowledge of concepts such as clear commitment, active communication, negotiated costs, reliability, inventory, and others. Jade's Cafe creates unique coffee blends from coffee beans grown in specific regions of the world. She keeps a variety of the base coffee beans required to make her specialty blends in stock, but the supply chain of each base coffee bean is slow. On which aspect of the supply chain should Jade focus? Because the supply of the base coffee beans is slow, she needs to focus on the chain between the base suppliers and her cafe. How about a couple more scenarios with a little more detail?
Tyler noticed his social media feeds recently exploded with people looking for products that featured characters from an indie film. He does some quick searching and finds a manufacturer that created outdoor patio products featuring these characters. He also discovers a manufacturer that offers gag gifts with the same characters. Tyler decides to put his web design skills to use and builds a retail site that sells barbecue covers, cups, coasters, aprons, umbrellas, and other wares to fans of the film. Of the following, which should concern Tyler the most? He's not worried about shipping, as there are numerous providers available for that particular service. And as an online retailer, relying on the manufacturers, he won't be storing inventory. Advertising won't be an issue. He can plug the site on social media. Tyler is worried about the reliability of the product supply. Nicole has created a new cake decorating device that virtually eliminates messy pastry bags and makes changing decorating tips a cinch. She meets with several manufacturers and finds one who is willing to produce the device so Nicole can sell it. After 4 months, sales of the device increased dramatically. Nicole and her device have been featured in several cooking magazines and on regional cooking shows, and as a result, orders spike. Nicole places another order with the manufacturer, but is told that due to an increase in production costs, she will have to pay triple the cost of her previous orders. Even with the increased number of orders, at the new cost, Nicole will barely be able to break even fulfilling existing orders. Of the following, which part of the supply chain needs to be addressed? Though you may be tempted to answer that communication needs need to be addressed, in this instance, the best answer is negotiated costs.
If you do encounter a scenario with a lot of detail, be sure to focus on the primary topics and not the story that the scenario might be weaving. In instances like this, it is often helpful to read the answers first to help you guide your search for the important details in the scenario. Let's tackle a few scenarios relating to factors that lead to sustainability.
After a rough start, Damon's photography business has become quite successful. Learning from earlier failures, Damon wants to implement a marketing strategy that will increase his business's sustainability. Of the following, which marketing action would improve the sustainability of Damon's business? One aspect of sustainability is keeping your customers coming back to your business. Of the options presented, though all might be ideas to consider, only offering the punch card provides a direct incentive to have his customers return. Thea has run a successful seasonal shave ice stand for the past 8 years. This past season her sales dropped considerably and she feels the need to focus on sustainability. Of the following, what actions should she take to improve the sustainability of her shave ice stand? Adding new flavor combinations could have an impact in the short term, but that isn't looking at overall sustainability. Increasing prices or shortening hours won't improve her sustainability either because they don't address the fundamental problem, which is to determine the factors that drive sales. To be sustainable, Thea needs to continue offering a product that customers want to purchase. Once she determines which factors drive her sales, then she can put a plan into action to improve those sales.
Let's take a look at one more.
The Johnson family owns a feed store that caters to the ranches in the area. Sales have steadily declined as the ranch properties have been sold and carved into smaller lots. Russ Johnson wants to retire and turn the business over to his son, David. David wants to improve the sustainability of the family business. Of the following, what action should David take to increase sustainability? Recognizing the changing needs of his clientele and offering supplies for traditional house pets is his best choice. The other options don't align with sustaining the family business.
As with all the scenarios you'll face on the ESB exam, careful reading will be helpful. Measuring growth milestones is important for any business, but they can be especially helpful for a business just getting on its feet. Let's take a look at how the ESB exam will expect you to apply your knowledge of milestones.
Michael recently started a landscape business, and one of his investors has expressed concern that the business isn't growing as quickly as he believes it should. Which milestone would best help Michael to demonstrate the growth rate of the business to his investor? Both repeat and satisfied customers show that Michael is offering a good product, but don't indicate growth. Total revenue would show potential growth from a dollar perspective, but not necessarily that the business itself is growing. The number of new customers would be a measurable milestone that Michael could use to demonstrate the growth of the business to the concerned investor. Casey's doggy daycare business is adding a grooming component. Casey determines that once the new part of the business turns a profit, that he will consider it successful. Of the following, which milestone can Casey use to measure the profitability of the dog grooming aspect of his business? Neither revenue nor number of customers exceeding that of the previous month determines profitability. Expenses being lower or at budgeted amounts demonstrates good planning, but not profitability. However, having revenue above the break-even point is the very definition of profit, and is the best choice in this scenario. Tad, Alex, and Melissa are partners in a small app development company and are creating milestones to measure the first-year growth of their business. Of the following, what should they track to help them determine their business's first-year growth? Of the four, sales is the best determiner of their growth. The number of assets only indicates what they have and not that they've grown. Revenue can show profitability, but it may not indicate growth. And expenses are a good way to show how they're running the business, but not necessarily its growth.
Overall, that is what you can expect on the business operations section of the exam. As we've discussed, careful reading will help you immensely.